welcome to Money Life. This is Sucheta Dalal. Today I'm going to talk about how retail investors have got into algorithm trading. What is algorithm trading? It's a computer software that writes an algorithm which is then connected to a trading system, finds great trading opportunities, and it's being used by retail investors to do intraday trading. And there are lots of people, there are 1 crore new demat accounts in just about a year, and people are obviously sitting at home during the pandemic and trading furiously as a way to enhance their income or even just earn money. Now, the question that I'm asking is the Securities and Exchange Board of India, which is our market regulator, being very reluctant to regulate these retail algorithms? And in doing so, is history repeating itself? Now, until recently, we used to believe that there are two markets in India. One is what the famous author Michael Lewis described in his book Flash Boys as those people who have the money and are big and have their servers co-located in the server farms of stock exchanges to be very, very close to the trading system, and they use powerful algorithms to put in crores and crores of transactions that happen within milliseconds. They make enormous money, rapid trades, and in intraday trading. So we used to think that these are the big boys who play among themselves. The rest of them are retail investors, mutual funds, other long-term investors, including insurance, pension funds, and others. We now discover that's not quite true. The market has changed rapidly in the last couple of years. In fact, retail investors are getting themselves turbocharged while they sit at home during the pandemic because there are small algo writing platforms who have written algos for retail investors to trade maybe in options, individual stocks, do intraday trading furiously from their computers at home, directly linked to brokers. As many as 40 top brokerage houses are apparently allowing people who use algos to trade, and there's no clarity about the number of firms writing such algos. In fact, I've tried to find out, does SEBI have any intention of regulating it? This is because somebody blew the whistle and said, you desperately need regulation in this space. Now, it turns out that the source told me on condition of anonymity that SEBI is aware that brokers offer algo trading to retail clients, and according to SEBI, it's only fair that it should not be limited to the big boys, and retail investors, the small guys, should also get an equal chance to trade with algorithm trading. All very good. Let's democratize the market. Let's not have an unfair system. It still remains unfair, remember, because the big guys have their servers located within the exchange. So the retail person using an algo may get speed, may turbocharge his trading, but there is still the latency effect. So you're not on par. But SEBI obviously has decided that it doesn't want to regulate them. I asked this question to stock exchanges, to SEBI's technical advisory committee, on the basis of a tweet and a long email from a whistleblower. Like I said, I'm going to come give you more details about it. Turns out that everybody is worried about retail investors in algo trading. And all of them have, in one way or the other, discussed it with SEBI officials, and apparently only the regulator is not interested. So who's the whistleblower? He's not hiding. He is Dharmik Thakkar. He actually has a platform writing algos. It's called Algo Maker, and he has clients and he sells this. Yet he's been saying that if you want to build trust in the system, you want to keep it safe, you want to ensure that it's not manipulated, it requires regulation. He's written to SEBI, he's talked to investment bankers, he's talked to others, got no response. That's why he tweeted, and he's talking to me. So what does he say? He says that code creates trading strategies for retail investors, and sometimes they may not even know what they're doing. Now let me explain how this works. SEBI defines algorithm trading as any order that's generated using automated execution logic, which is a computerized program. Then there is APIs, which is application program interface, that allows individuals to access these trading platforms without needing to log in manually. The algo writer usually sell these algos, trading strategies or trading advice, which is written as a program. They backtest it to show how it can capture gaps buy sell prices and make money for you, whether it's in Bank Nifty, or in a particular stock. If you're convinced, you buy that particular algorithm. Now, these algo makers have been advertising their products, they're out there in the market, and some of them charge like 500 rupees a month to subscribe to algo. What they've done next is that they've tied up with these 40 odd broking companies and given them, built a bridge for direct integration with the trading platform of the brokers. This means that sitting at home without a manual login, you are directly connected to the broker's trading platform, and your computer algorithm puts through your trades possibly far more rapidly than you would do in a manual trade, and it's programmed to trade in certain stocks or certain futures, options, indices, so that it maximizes your profits for you. Nothing is so sure shot in our market, so every algo obviously works when the going is good, but when there are sudden disruptions, you hear wailing and screeching on social media about huge losses that people have made in intraday trades, which makes you wonder, are all these people trading with these kind of algos? They don't know the risks because the regulator is not interested in informing them, telling them the pros and cons, or even regulating algos. Now, these discretionary algos claim to make money and generate returns, and naturally they're sucking people into trading the way you would go into a casino. You don't have to think much. The algo is doing the trading and thinking for you. It is giving you the investment advice, so more and more people are attracted to it. Now, some say that the algo market for retail investors is small, but Dharmik Thakkar says that based on NSE data, he thinks that API-based algo strategies account for 20% of trading volumes, which is pretty large. Everybody agrees that in a matter of 2 years, this has grown and will continue to grow very, very rapidly as more investors come into the market. I mean, who doesn't want a system which doesn't need you to think, where a computer is going to do the thinking, look at the prices, and get you profits maybe multiple times a day? So it's going to suck in more people. Among the people I spoke to, other than the MDs of stock exchanges, or rather wrote to, was Nitin Kamath, founder of Zerodha. As you know, Zerodha is today the largest brokerage firm in the country. Now, he says that his firm does give API access to people who are very computer savvy and know to write programs. In fact, they charge 2,000 a month for this privileged access. But he says they restrict use to those who understand how to use them, and they do not want to encourage a bridge and a direct link from their broking platform. However, he says that a person can pay for the API, integrate it himself, because we're talking about people who understand programming, in which case what they do through the Zerodha platform. Remember, Zerodha is a discount brokerage firm with very wafer-thin brokerage charges. So what they do is entirely up to them. Now, what is wrong with retail algos today? Like we said, let's have a democratic system. Let retail investors also have the opportunity to be turbocharged and do program trading. Point is that it has to be regulated, and retail investors have to understand the risk. They cannot look at it as a sure shot way of making money. Buy an algo and you're always on the profit side. It's not going to happen. That's not how the market works, and there's not enough information. Now, what is more important is that they seem to fall, these algos are people who are platforms who have nothing to do with the capital market. They're not regulated by the exchanges, they're not regulated by SEBI, they're not even registered anywhere. The broker is not looking at what those programs are, and yet basically they're writing an algorithm which is giving investment advice. So they would fall foul of registered investment advisor and research analyst regulations, where SEBI is extremely stringent, has huge compliance requirements, has educational quality requirements, capital requirements. They will fall foul of that. And SEBI, as I said earlier, doesn't even want to look at it. It thinks that these are individual programmers writing, doesn't want to look at the fact that this is available as a shop and is being marketed. It is extremely strange that this happens at a time when there have been 25 broker defaults on the NSE in the past 2 years. I keep saying that in 91, 92, 20 broker defaults of the Bombay Stock Exchange led to SEBI getting its statutory teeth, NSE's board having brokers step down, becoming professional, and yet not only no action about these defaults on NSE or introspection about risk assessment, regulation, supervision at the NSE and SEBI, but we actually have SEBI not responding to our questions about regulating retail algos, because these can be powered. The other point is that brokers who give this direct access are allowed to give investment advice without any of the rules that apply to investment advisors. Isn't this strange? But yes, that's how it is. Now, why is there a need for a regulatory framework, and who needs to regulate them? As I said earlier, everybody thinks there is a need for regulation. Internationally, all algos, whatever they are, need to have some kind of license. India is not looking at it. When it comes to the large, qualified, big pocket institutional investors who can afford those expensive co-located servers, the stock exchanges look at the algo and they have to okay them, but not the retail algos. Again, isn't this strange? SEBI, the preamble to the SEBI Act talks about investor protection, which is retail investors. In fact, when retail investors start trading algos, SEBI needs to be out with the rules first. But you have to remember that SEBI was sleeping even when it came to the large algorithm and co-location trading. In fact, we've written a whole book on it called Absolute Par, which was released only last month. And we've talked about how NSE started algo trading in 2010 without any permissions from SEBI, and SEBI woke up on 30th August 2012, 30th April 2012, and came up with a set of rules called Broad Guidelines on Algorithm Trading. In 2015, we had the algo scam, which I've written about. So when it comes to retail algos, SEBI seems to be behind the curve again, not even on par with what international markets require, which is some kind of license. And the big irony is all regulated entities think that there is a need for regulation, and it is an algo writer, Dharmik Thakkar, who is a whistleblower and pleading for a clear regulatory framework. His reason is very clear. He finds, and these are not his words, they're my words, sleeping regulators wake up only when there's a big scam or a market collapses. They then turn into super cops and start initiating drastic action, which may be shutting down all these algo writers. You build distrust, you create panic at that time instead of regulating when you need to. Like I said, I wrote to the SEBI chairman and the chairman of the Technical Advisory Committee, no reply from SEBI, but TAC felt that this comes under SEBI's Risk Advisory Committee and not the TAC. So who should regulate algos? It's very clear that if stock exchanges are looking at algos for the big guys, maybe stock exchanges need to look at it for the retail people also. First of all the people who are writing retail algos need some kind of registration. There is a catch here, of course, which is that SEBI rules are so stringent for investment advisors and compliance requirements, capital requirements, that if they were applied to these algo platforms, then it's quite possible that they wouldn't be able to, it would be unviable, they wouldn't be able to comply with them. Question is, do we need so many of them? Should they be large transparent platforms? That is for SEBI to decide. Personally, I think they should. But as some market people say, there's a good chance that people who are very skilled at writing these programs will just go underground. They will sell it quietly to people and they will trade. If that happens, the risk is entirely among themselves. But when algo platforms begin to advertise their monthly subscription for algos, routed through brokers, and there is no warning from the regulator, that is something to worry. It is the duty of the regulator to step in and to look at it. The point to understand, as Dharmik Thakkar, the whistleblower, says, is there is no difference between API-based algorithms for retail and co-location except latency. I've already said that before. And the requirements should be such that these algos cannot be used. Now again, there's a discussion on whether these algos are being used only in index and option like Nifty and Bank Nifty or are they being used even for penny stocks? Some people feel that these algos are being written only for the Nifty or for indices. Dharmik Thakkar thinks that they are being written for penny stocks, they can lead to pump and dump. He also believes that since the end user doesn't really know what the complex coding is, they can actually be misused, or what in banking would be called, some of these retail traders may end up being mules. They may buy the algos not knowing that they are programmed, or the program can be tweaked to do things that they shouldn't, and when it's not regulated, who's to know what on earth is happening or why there are losses? All we know is every once in a while there are huge losses, including in penny stocks. Now Thakkar has gone a step ahead. What he's done is he's taken a stock, used this strategy by placing orders with 40 user accounts that are his subscribers to create a case study, and he has shown how bulk orders can be pumped through these algos to get the desired results, which could be to depress prices. So in a competitive environment, or when someone wants to bring down the prices or create a panic, they could possibly use, or rather I would say misuse, algos to do this, and they would use thousands and thousands of retail investors who would either be in on the game and paid for it, or may be clueless, may just be mules, may be used. The point is, it cannot be left unregulated. The regulation should start now, and the sleeping regulator has to be woken up. The question is, who's going to do it? I have a list here of people who offer this. This is not meant for you to start contacting them and trading. It is meant for you to be watchful and understand the pitfalls. If you agree with what I'm saying, do make an effort to push for regulation. If you like this video, ask others to subscribe. Thank you.